Hi friends, welcome back. So want to have a chat with you about education in America. And this is a very sensitive topic with a lot of loaded issues in this, but I want to read you just some basic statistics so we're starting on the same page here. This is taken from Google and it says here, the average American reads at a 7th to 8th grade level. However, a study by the Department of Education found that 54% of Americans between ages 16 and 74 read below a 6th grade level, right? So basically, that's telling you that adults in America, 54% of them read below a 6th grade level. Here's a couple more stats 14% of adults in the US can't read, 19% of high school graduates in the US can't read. We also have this, and this is just basic, reading proficiency. Now we're talking about math. You Google, what's American math level. It says here, the United States math level is considered low compared to other countries. And there are several factors that contribute to this. And there's a number here from 2022 math scores. It's called the National Assessment of Educational Progress. They're saying basically math scores are the lowest in 30 years. And only 26% of 8th graders scored proficient or above in math. You're having, very similar numbers when you look at math or reading, but essentially Americans, the education system just keeps falling further and further behind other developed nations. You guys know this. I live in Korea, but you may not know I used to live in China. I used to live in Japan, also lived in Vietnam. I lived in several states in the USA, and I can tell you, it actually varies widely among groups in USA, the states, etc., like where people are at in terms of their reading and their math levels. I do YouTube all the time, which is an international audience. Plus, I can kind of see the trends happening on YouTube. And I'll just be really frank. If you remember, like one of our most popular sort of events slash shows of recent memory was that whole was it Jake Paul versus Mike Tyson fight, right? That was just like a week or so ago or whatever, and it got pretty good ratings for Netflix, and that's what all the people are talking about in the Twitterverse and whatever. But that's sort of where society is going to. That's like entertainment. It's just two guys hitting each other. That's basically what it is, two guys hitting each other. Or you can look at our TikTok world where everything's fast and like, how can I say, just get as much attention as possible. In fact, here in Korea, there's an American sort of vlogger person. I never heard of the guy before. I just saw it in the news, and he was running around basically just harassing people in public. There's no other way to say it, right? I guess he was following people with the camera, or he'd run around the subway saying, "I have a device," this kind of stuff, which is actually illegal in Korea. Or just doing things like desecrating historical statues, just weird stuff for attention or whatever. The thing is like when I saw that, I'm just like, oh my god, that kind of represents quote the ugly American. And if you guys kind of know that stereotype of just Americans behaving poorly overseas, I think that relates though to sort of this cultural, I don't know, I could say position where we're at in the USA, to where a large portion of the audience, right, large portion of Americans want to watch that kind of stuff because that's where they're at. And if you introduce things that are a little bit more complex, or a little bit more, how can I say, complete or fuller of how to think about the world, suddenly you lose them, right? The best way to talk to Americans these days is say, hey, I have a very simple solution to a really complex problem. I have a very simple version of history. Let's condense a couple hundred years of history in like one sentence, and that's it, right? And if your reading levels are essentially below 6th grade, that's all that you can understand. And like I said, I know this is a sensitive topic. It's hard to talk about. I'll put it to you this way. I got my start in working and in education with Bill Nye the Science Guy. So I'm a big believer in science. And I've always appreciated what Bill's done, essentially to make science entertaining and get people excited about the stuff. But I never feel like that, hey, he's just, doing dumb stuff for dumb people. It's not like that. It is oftentimes with education is just people who don't know, right? People who are ignorant. And ignorant can have different meanings in terms of like how you use the word, but the basic idea is just you don't know. And when you don't know, you can actually improve yourself by knowing, right? By picking up a book and reading it, by working through math problems together. I'm just using basic reading and math. The problem we have right now, and it's not just American society, it's all around the world these days, this introduction of AI, this chat GPT stuff. I see it actually on social media where teachers and professors are complaining now that so many students are just feeding their topics to the AI thing, and then expect the AI to basically write their papers and do the thinking for them, essentially, right? Because every student just wants to get the good grade. It's not really about learning anymore. It's just give me a good grade, and then let me go about my merry way, and give you my diploma, and let me go about my merry way. And the thing I really want to stress with you guys is, if you want to be successful in today's world, and it's going to get more and more difficult as we keep going further, is you have to learn to think critical. You have to learn to question things. You have to learn to be able to decipher what is true and what is not true. And it's becoming more and more difficult, even for me. Like I look at the news every day. I have a conversation with you guys in the community every day. Sometimes I'm not even sure necessarily, right? But I will say that really clearly. I'll say, hey, this is what this person says. Hey, this is what this person says. Here's some photos. Here's some numbers that we have. Do I know exactly? No, because this and that's being honest. The problem is when you present that kind of picture of the world, to where there's people saying different things, and you want to give someone an honest depiction of what's happening. If you're not used to that kind of world, or used to thinking, what you really want is just, okay, I have a limited amount of time to understand things. I just work 12 hours a day. I just want to come home, and I want you to tell me how to get rich, right? Just give me one sentence, how to get rich. What do I buy? I'll buy it. Tell me the price, and that's it. And that's all they want to think about. And if you understand what we're talking about here, and the seriousness of this stuff, if people just treat their money in that way, just think about this. You work 12 hours a day or whatever, earned a bunch of money, you come home, and then you're just going to sort of lackadaisically use your money to invest in whatever, assets, or stocks, or whatever. And you're going to put your trust in someone who's like a fast talker and tries to simplify things as much as possible, even though it's not even true. That leads to a whole bunch of problems, right? And we're getting into where we are now in the USA with the system of, say, Trump is at the top. He announced that, he wants the Department of Education to get rid of that whole thing. And Elon Musk goes, yeah, get rid of Department of Education. Oh, it's so awesome. And to get rid of it, that is. And then, you appoint a new head. It's McMahon, who was the wife of Vince McMahon, and they're involved in all sorts of scandals. They were and I never make joke about this, because the scandals are actually really, really awful. I mean, really, really awful. And they're CEOs of professional wrestling, etc. But that's sort of where the population is going. Just let that sink in. Like, we're appointing someone who is, like, I guess you call an expert in professional wrestling management, is now going to be our education head, right? That's who we're nominating here. And then you have the situation as well where, like, you have the person coming in to be president of the United States. They were selling Bibles at the beginning of the year, and essentially, like, why were you selling Bibles, right? Because this person has a bunch of, like, court cases against them, and because they got scandal after scandal after scandal. And then it turns out you have Oklahoma, who's like, oh yes, we're going to pass a law where we have to buy the Trump Bibles. And then it turns out that basically the Oklahoma person says, okay, I want to make a video to where I can pray, and everyone has to watch me pray, and then talk about how awesome Trump is, and then we're gonna sell these Bibles together and make a bunch of money. I like there's like so many wrongs with this thing. Like, how do we even begin? And the other thing that's so crazy about it is, then you have a population of people that they think, right? That they think, well, the reason why education is going astray, the reason why our math scores and our reading scores are going astray, is because we don't have enough Bibles in school. It's like, oh wow, yeah, right. We got to get more Bibles in school, and in fact, and everyone's just reading the Bible, right? And you have politicians that are now selling said Bibles, and yeah, they're getting rich off getting Bibles, and everything's going to be better. Like, how do you even begin to even talk about this kind of stuff? I wanted to bring this up because I see the path that we're going, especially where in this new social media driven world, and now we're in a situation where Musk has X. That is basically state propaganda now, which is kind of crazy because before, Twitter, he'd be always like, oh, we're against the government, et cetera, et cetera. Now it's just like repeating whatever government says, setting, essentially the how can I say, the agenda, the priorities that you're thinking about, right? These kind of things. And then you have a collection of people who the best way to communicate to them is through memes, like pictures, like memes and pictures, right? And they think this whole thing is funny. Um, and it's like, how do you even begin to even talk about this stuff when it's permeating all of society and it's getting bigger? Like if you think about the most popular person on YouTube right now is Mr. Beast. You guys know this, right? And the dude is involved in some sort of crazy crypto scam. And then he's involved with like essentially running the way he runs his shows, whatever sweepstakes scam, or people get injured on his show. Because basically this kid, I think Jimmy, his name is Jimmy, I think is Donaldson, I think his name is, and he's like, I think he might be 26, 27. Like these are kids, right? But this is like who the youth generation in the USA worship these days and who they want to become. Essentially, it's like their dream is to, if you think about it out loud, the dream is to be a dropout and then, have reality shows where people fight and hurt each other. And then it goes back to our entertainment is two guys hitting each other, right? Tyson and Paul. That's our entertainment. And that's our education too, is two guys hitting each other, because that's who essentially is running the education show. And then our solution is put more Bibles in school. It's basically saying more religion. And then you have a politician who's like profiting off that belief that we need more Bibles in school. And it goes, it's such a complicated and loaded issue. And I understand, guys. I understand that's where people think. People think, yes, you're right. That solution is just definitely more Bibles is a solution. And then you have an issue in a situation to where you have a movement in USA where essentially people don't believe any institutions anymore, right? Like they just don't believe it. They're like, okay, I just don't believe in high school at all anymore. I would just want my kids to stay home. Yeah, and I'm just going to teach my kids. It doesn't matter if I have a degree or not. It doesn't even matter if I can read or not. I'm going to teach my kids the best way that I can because I know what's best for my kids. And so how do you communicate to like a parent like that? It's tough. And now we're going into, Thanksgiving, holidays, etc. And I know many people, maybe go back home and maybe some people really enjoy it. Maybe some people really hate it. I'll just say this. It's once a year. And just always remind yourself it's once a year, and you can take it. You can take that as you want. But it is hard to have any kind of conversations with people who are different, right? When we're not even on the same level of understanding of how the world is. And that's very, very difficult to address. Um, and it's like, well, what do we do? Well, my advice and these kind of things is, one is patience, right? Two, sometimes you have to have a sense of humor about it because I mean it's just not worth getting angry and upset all the time. Like what can I do? But honestly, it does matter. This is a serious issue, right? I can't wave my hand and say, okay, suddenly everyone's going to read better and suddenly everyone's going to do math better. I can't wave my hand and do that. What I can do though, and something that you'll find improves your life considerably, is to show up every day with a smile and try to give you an honest discussions as best I can of any one of these issues. The more you use your mind, the more that you use your mind on a daily basis, you will find that it becomes stronger. The same way if you go to the gym and you pump weights every day, you'll find that you become stronger, right? Your chest gets bigger, or you lift weights with your legs, right? Like your legs get bigger, right? Like the more you do something, the better you get at it. And so this is why you should never turn off your brain. You use your brain. You use your brain and it'll get stronger. The same way that like if you read more, you'll get better at reading. You do math more, you look at numbers more, you get better at understanding numbers, right? And what happens is that the more experience you get and the more you do these kind of things, you'll find yourself getting better every single day. And you'll notice that the people that don't do these things, they'll fall further and further behind. and they'll need people to essentially make things more and more simpler for them. And the problem is that this is the choice that we all have to make. If you're in the group who actually does understand how things work, you have a couple choices. One is, do you want to help other people to try to understand how the world works, make their life better? Or do you just want to profit off of people's ignorance? And that's sort of where we are right now as a society. Many people decided, you know what, I'm going to go for the group of people that make things simple to me, and I'm going to give them money to buy their Bibles, and then they're going to get rich off selling me Bibles, and then I'm going to worship them for that. And if you think about like how crazy that system is, I understand the rationale from all of this full perspective. And yeah, maybe I should start selling Bibles too. I guess that's the way to go. But it is a tough pill to swallow. But I have a sense of humor about it because what else can I do other than wake up and smile every day and try to do my best to contribute to the world in a positive way. So I just wanted to have a chat with you guys about this. We can keep having these conversations, and I want to hear your thoughts about it. And I'll catch you in the next video.